Hello viewers and a warm welcome to the show today. Before I begin my very simple dish, I will of course begin by introducing the guest on the show today. His name is Kevin and I would like him to also give you a rerun of what he's about and maybe what he does, just to give you an idea of what he's about. Kevin?
So my name is Kevin and I'm a street artist known by the name Bank Slave. I've been painting the streets of Nairobi, doing murals for now close to 20 years now. And next year is going to be my anniversary for street art in Nairobi and graffiti. So I'm happy to be here and to cook and learn how to cook and to do a lot of cooking methods with Chef Andy.
Perfect. Now, before I begin the show, I'll of course introduce the ingredients just to give you an idea of what to expect. Now, on this particular show, we are going to be doing things a little different. We're of course going to be moving the set a little bit from the usual. We're going to be cooking on the grill today. So for those of you who are watching or those of you who are tuned in, remember these are particularly recipes that you can be able to do on the grill and of course not on your stovetop. But you can of course incorporate the use of an oven if you also prefer to do so. But before I begin, introduction of the ingredients to begin with. Now you'll of course require a leg of lamb. You'll also require some olive oil, which you'll be using to make your flatbread. You're also going to be using some cloves of garlic, about 2 teaspoons of paprika powder, about 1 tablespoon cumin powder, and some dried thyme. You'll also require some plain yogurt, about 3 whole lemons. You'll also require some flour that you'll be making your flatbread with, and some flour for dusting, some salt to season with, a bit of water to make your dough, and last but not least, some olive oil, which we'll be using on the grill. So we're going to give you this chance to freshen up and unwind, and we'll catch you after a very short break. Welcome back to the show, viewers. Now, for those of you who may just be tuning in, I'm joined on the show today with Kevin, a street artist, a very good friend, and someone who's very passionate about his meat. Now, Kevin, I'll begin by asking, what kind of flavors do you look forward to when enjoying lamb?
I like my lamb just marinated and like I could feel like the tenderness of it as well sometimes. Yeah.
So now for that particular reason, we're going to of course have a very tender lamb on the grill today. And we're going to be incorporating some lemons, which will of course make our meat nice and tender.
And juicy.
Exactly, and juicy. Now, as we begin the process, I'll of course take Kevin through the very simple technique of making the marination. And of course, I'll continue on the other end by deboning the leg of lamb. So we're going to be working simultaneously.
Right.
So you can of course begin by making our marination. And I'll of course proceed to debone our lamb. So proceed. Now for this recipe, I'm going to be using a leg of lamb. Remember, you can be able to achieve the same by using any other particular cuts of meat that you may prefer. For this particular recipe, I decided to go with some beautifully aged lamb. As you can see, a nice beautiful spread of fat to this particular piece. And this is particularly going to aid on the grill, especially in getting that nice, beautiful, succulent color to the meat, and of course giving it a nice, beautiful, tender bite to it. So I'll begin the process by cleaning off the meat. And of course, very important.
Is that good enough?
That's perfect.
Okay.
And of course, very importantly, always begin by removing any excess fat from your meat. But of course, do not trim too much off, because it will of course also aid in giving a bit of flavor once it gets onto the grill. So begin by taking off that thick chunk of fat over the top. And you can, of course, be able to get this done by your butcher, especially if you're going to be doing plenty of this, maybe for a party or a barbecue. You can, of course, have the butterflying process done by a butcher, but if you're feeling a little confident, you can, of course, be able to do it from your very own home kitchen. Of course, very importantly, by using a very, very sharp knife to achieve this. Right, so Kevin, we're going to proceed to add the rest of the ingredients. So you're going to proceed to squeeze some lemon from the juice.
Yeah. Cool.
And now,
It's gonna be
Kevin.
tender.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin, maybe you can begin by giving the viewers maybe an introduction to how you got into street art, maybe what motivated you to become a street artist as opposed to being the Picasso in the art gallery.
So for me, I started painting while I was a small boy. At around 10 years old. I painted some murals of my mom's friends with charcoal at the back side of our house. And then she used to brag about them.
But you actually used to do it with just charcoal?
Charcoal? Yeah.
On the wall?
Just trying out, just doodling, like every other person does when they start off. And that kind of like made my mom kind of realize that I had something going.
You had a passion for art?
Yes, and then she got me some pencils and drawing pads to work on, and at least I would paint some more images of her friends, like my aunties as well. I would do some portraits of them. They wouldn't come out the best,
but of course,
yes,
grew over time.
Yes, with time, you know, I had it going. So from then, you know, I went into competitions in my primary school, where there was one that was being done by one of the shoe companies, shoe shining companies, and they were doing some competitions in our primary schools. So I used to participate on that, and I remember I became the third on one of them. We had like really good artists who fell off, but I was inspired and I kept going. And being third was like something that I felt like this is something that I'm good at, and I kept on drawing. So when I joined high school, in Kaba High School, this is in Eastern Province, I went on to just pursue art, and I had like good competition for it. The friends who I was painting, my colleagues in the school, and we had like a good artist teacher, and we used to like have these good competitions that would make us better. So I think the competition bit about it was what was making me more sharp, and better on my skill. And I continued with it. I got a good grade on it. So the other subjects I wasn't good at them, but art was the best.
Art was the best for you.
That is what I felt at home with. So I just continued with it, and we had fun. And when I finished high school, I joined college, Buruburu Institute of Fine Art, where I went on to pursue fine art. Of course, my mom was always there to support me. And then I did first year, second year, and we did some gigs when I was still in college. With
just on street art?
Yes, just on street art. And that's when I did like a couple of graffiti pieces for my friends who were doing music videos, hip-hop music videos. And I also did some events, like the Beats Per Minute event that was really huge at the time.
I remember that was by Homeboys?
Yes, by Homeboys,
yes.
Beats Per Minute. We did Beats Per Minute, and then we did a nice mural at the back, just college students. And it came out really nice. Some of these students who are usually, the background was painting on matatus. The time, we were bought to do like a music video backdrop for Necessary Noise. Which for me at the time was was a privilege.
Yeah, because they were actually one of the biggest groups in
Yes,
the city, and
yes.
they were very
Necessary-
vibrant and well known.
Yes, necessary noise was the thing. So for that, I just felt like this is something that I'm gonna pursue, and I kept on doing it. When I got like more paint, I
Can just dump that there.
yeah. When I got more paint, I went on to do like more street work. So most of my work was mostly in the streets. And there was this event called WAPI, Words and Pictures, which was hosted by the British Council. So we had like MCs, we had poets, even Mudhoni drama queens, so Sauti Soul, Calligraph Jones, the people who are making it right now in the music industry. That is where they came from. So Bankslave was part of that. And we had a crew. By the time we were called Gas Crew. And then we elevated to call ourselves now Spray Uzi Crew. Up until now, we are like 4 artists who are street artists who've been traveling all over the world just to paint.
Maybe you can give me an insight. How far and wide have you gone on your travels just doing art?
Yeah, so I've been to Australia. In Adelaide. I
That's
have
a
like
very
3
long flight,
massive,
yeah?
it's long flight. It's 28 hours.
28-hour
Yes.
flight, yeah.
So I've been there, painted like 3 massive murals. I've sold my paintings there as well in exhibitions. The Sanaa Art Festival has exhibitions there. So I've done those for 2 years. I've been there, called for 2 years. I've been to Europe, specifically Germany twice. I've been to Denmark. I've been to Poland. For each of this is just like festivals. I've been painting there. Been to the US, a place called New Orleans. I've done a Dedan Kimathi piece over there. So yeah.
So viewers,
and
as
West
you can
Africa
hear,
as well. West Africa, Senegal. Been to Cape Verde. Just with my art, you know. So I'm appreciating.
So ladies and gentlemen, as you can get it from the artist himself, for those of you who thought art was not about exposure and didn't even come with benefits like travel, I think Kevin has pretty much made it clear that you can actually go further than your own neighborhood. As he said very nicely, he started off in the background, he started off the backyard of his mom's house, and I bet you used to get into trouble quite a bit,
Yes, I did get into trouble, but it's part of it, you know, like it's my therapy. It was what I was running towards just to feel myself free. So that is what became my passion, and I'm eating from my passion, I'm living from my passion,
Now, Kevin, something I also wanted to ask. I pretty much have taken time to try and draw, but I remember my sister used to tell me back in the day that maybe I have 2 left eyes because I would pretty much never get the symmetry right. What would be the motivation, or what would you tell our viewers out there for those who are starting up now and maybe their pictures and their murals or their sketches are not really to perfection? What's the best advice you could give them maybe as beginners?
I tell you, it's just keep going at it. There are a lot of, right now when we have the internet, there's like a lot of tutorials about on painting and drawing that people can use that can help them to be better artists for themselves. I usually also go to the tutorials because I don't believe that I'm
you know everything
the best
yet.
So, and also I'm gonna be doing some of these tutorials also in my YouTube channel very soon. So people are gonna be watching that, Kenyans mostly, because I'm gonna be cutting through all the languages that our Kenyans or East Africans can understand. So that's what I'm looking at. But the thing is, there are a lot of ways that you can as well use to better yourself. Like there's the grid system where you just put lines and if you want your piece to like get a small piece to project it to a bigger piece, use the grid system. Sometimes when we want to do these massive murals, we use projectors as well to
actually just move the image from, of course, it's soft copy and to amplify it in size.
To a wall, So there are different ways that you can do this. So if you have the passion and determination, it's not easy. Just practice. It takes, for me, it took years. But for some people, it can take
maybe shorter, maybe longer.
Shorter time. You know, it depends on how easy you are with the tools that you're using. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you've heard it from the artist's words himself, anybody can be an artist. It just takes a bit of passion, a bit of persistence, and of course some perseverance, of course. Nothing always starts easy. For myself as well, I remember I used to really cut my fingers when I began cooking. I was actually afraid of anything with a head, especially when I had to maybe work with meat. So of course some of these challenges you of course overgrow over time, and it just becomes easy peasy as you continue.
Yes.
All right, now just to bring you back to the show, of course we've taken this time to give you just a bit of background of Kevin's art, and you can of course be able to find out this and many more from his Instagram page. I think it's Bankslave.
Yes.
Yes, I actually had a chance to check out the page before I invited Kevin over, and there is plenty for you to love. There is a mural I saw this weekend, I think, or last week, a nice beautiful painting in brown colors. So definitely do make a point of visiting his Instagram page. There's plenty of art to be able to be found there. And maybe, Kevin, maybe there's someone out there who may want to consult you or seek you and maybe even hire you for services. How easy would it be to be able to find you?
So mostly you can just send me an email on mrbankslave@gmail.com or go to my website, which is bankslaveart.com, or just like shoot a DM on my Instagram, Bankslave, or my page on Facebook, which is Bankslave. Yeah, that's easy to get me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Kevin, I've pretty much done most of the deboning. As you can be able to see, the leg is completely out, and we pretty much have our chunk of meat now. So, ladies and gentlemen, very simple procedure. I hope you'll be able to recap on this through our video, and if you've missed out on most of what we've done, also if you've missed out on what Kevin has been explaining on the show, and if you're just tuning in, remember you can recap through our YouTube page, that's BrandPlus TV Kenya. But for now, we will proceed to marinate our meat. So I'm going to ask you to grab that nice, beautiful whisk at the back. Yeah, the black one, yeah. So what you're going to do is you're just going to begin to whip that mixture, and this is basically to allow for the acid and the oil to combine. And now as Kevin continues to do so, we're pretty much going to be moving our set out to our grill at the moment.
Nyama choma.
And we're going to start our nyama choma evening nice and easy. But we are of course going to finish off by marinating our meat. So I like to pretty much cook my chunk of meat as one whole piece. Remember, one beautiful particular thing of doing so is it actually looks nice and big on a plate, and it will of course give you a chance to be able to carve it once it's ready. But we will of course allow you to see this a little later in the show. So do of course make a point of tuning in all the way to the end. You may actually be able to enjoy some of the tips I'll also be able to share with you from the grill while we continue to cook this beautiful chunk of meat. All right, so once that is mixed, we're going to proceed to add our dried thyme. We're also going to add our cumin. Now this is going to give it a nice beautiful aroma on the grill. I'm also going to add about 2 teaspoons of small teaspoons, of course, of my paprika powder. And then, of course, just to give it that nice, beautiful zing, we're also going to be adding some garlic to this. So for this, I'm not actually going to chop them up. I'm actually just going to pat them on the board. So you can, of course, work on the same board as you did with your meat, because it's, of course, going to be one consistent mixture as well. And just proceed to bang those. And this will, of course, allow for the juices to really permeate the meat. And, of course, once that's done, all you need to do at this stage now is proceed to move your meat into the marination. Right, so we're just going to proceed to move that in there. And you can actually proceed to massage that with your hands. Yep. And now this particular technique is basically, we call it the rubbing in method. And this is basically where you actually manage to infuse the meat with the flavors of the marinade, and it actually manages to permeate nicely all the way to the end. Now, for those of you who are tuned in, we're of course going to take a very short break, and we're going to be moving this onto the grill. So please don't touch that dial. You'll definitely enjoy what you're going to be doing next. See you in a little while. Hello viewers and welcome yet again to the show. As I mentioned, we were pretty much going to be doing some grilling today, and I had mentioned as well before we took the break that we're of course going to be moving the cooking out as opposed to the way we've been doing it in studio. So I hope you're pretty much going to be able to learn some tricks around the grill today,
Yes.
Mr. Kevin.
Yes, we are gonna learn some tricks.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, to begin the show, we're going to begin very, very simply by explaining some very small things that are pretty much the must-knows, especially when working on a grill.
Right.
So the one particular process I wanted to show you
Right.
is the idea of cleaning your grill.
Right.
Now, most people pretty much may actually just throw the meat on the grill, but of course we never know what exactly was on the grill before. There
Yes,
could be
yes.
rust or any
Yes.
particular dirt that's on the grill.
Yeah.
So very, very important to make sure your grill is clean before we proceed.
Right.
Now for that, I'm going to be using this beautiful meat tongue,
Okay.
and I'll just proceed to prick my lemon.
Yeah.
And very, very simply, just touch a touch of oil over the lemon. This is basically just to cushion the heat.
Right.
And all you need to do now is just rub your lemon right over the ranges that you'll be placing your meat on.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing is this basically sanitizes your grill. So you
yeah.
pretty much, by doing this, you make sure that the grill is nice and clean.
Yeah.
And of course, any particular bits of rust or maybe food left over from the previous time you grilled is already off the grill by the time you proceed to do so.
Right.
Right, so nice and easy.
I've seen some people use potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes also work quite nicely. They do
Okay.
carry a beautiful acidicness to them. And basically the idea is even an orange will work, a lemon will work.
Right.
Anything that particularly has a bit of acid
Yeah.
is the best for using for this
okay.
method.
Okay, so it's
Yep.
acid.
Exactly.
And
Right.
it smells good already.
And it already smells good. You can be able to get it coming through.
Right.
So what I also like to do once this is done, I don't actually throw the lemon away. I actually like to just grab that piece and I like to shove it right inside the grill. What happens is as we continue to grill, the lemon will of course continue to cook and it will also infuse a bit of flavor.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
I told you we are grilling different today.
Interesting.
All right, the next thing I wanted to share with you is an improvised brush.
Right.
I think you've pretty much seen on many cooking shows that people like to baste their meat with a brush.
Right.
Now, because we're authentic and we're stylish,
Yeah.
we're going to be doing it different. So I'm going to
Okay.
be using this piece of rosemary as my brush.
Okay.
So it's very, very simple technique.
Yeah.
So all you can do is pretty much grab some rubber bands,
Okay.
and all you need to do is by holding onto the branch, making sure that you have most of the side that you'll be using to brush with,
Right.
proceed to just fasten the branch with a bit of some rubber band,
Okay.
like so. And this basically allows for you to use it as a brush.
Okay.
And another thing as well, it's actually going to infuse a bit of flavor as you brush with it, being that it's a herb as well.
Yeah.
It's also going to give it a nice, beautiful aroma.
So this way I just brush
So
it
this
off.
we're going to be brushing with the meat.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Right, so we're going to proceed to move our meat onto the grill. And very simply, always proceed to turn it around the marination for a little bit just before it goes on. And what we are going to do is we are going to start with the skin side on the outside.
Okay.
So the side that had the fat goes on the outside.
Okay.
And all you need to do now is just hold it over your bowl. Allow it to just drip off any excess oils.
Yeah.
And then proceed to move that onto your grill like that. And I think you can also be able to get the aroma coming through already.
Right.
And once that's done, pretty much all you need to do is just dip your rosemary inside the oil
Yeah.
or inside your marination
Yeah.
and just proceed to baste very, very lightly over the top. Simple as that.
Ah, nice.
Now, of course, in the beginning stages, you will have a bit of flames coming up because of the oil that's contained in the meat.
Yeah.
So what we prefer to do at this stage is I'm going to proceed to adjust the level of the grill a little bit.
All right.
We're raising it a
it's
little
like
higher.
Low heat.
Exactly. So this is basically to be able to cushion our heat.
Yeah.
And as it continues, I'm also going to proceed to close the chimney,
Okay.
or rather the air door, so that
Yeah.
I can actually be able to bring the flames a little lower.
All right.
And once that's done, all you need to do is grab the lid
Yeah.
and proceed to cover.
All right.
And we're basically going to allow that to continue to cook nice and slowly,
Okay.
making sure that the meat is also tender. The meat
Yes.
doesn't also have a bit of a heat from a shock from the heat.
Right.
And it also allows for it to continue to cook very, very slowly
And evenly.
and evenly.
Yeah.
And of course, by bringing the cover right over it, we manage to trap the smoke with all the flavor.
Ah, okay.
So what happens is you get that beautiful smoky kind of feeling to your nyama choma.
Okay, okay, nice.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're just going to allow that to continue to cook for anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes on the first side.
All right.
And then we'll proceed to turn it over.
Nice.
Simple and easy.
Right.
Welcome back, viewers. For those of you who are just tuning in, we've pretty much managed to cook the first side of our meat.
Yeah.
And as you can see, nice and beautiful colors coming through there. So we're going to proceed to turn this over very, very gently. As you can see, nice, beautiful golden color there. This is particularly one beautiful element of also telling that your meat is cooked.
Right.
So always go for almost charcoal burnt kind of effect.
Yes.
This will of course always give you the go-ahead that you can actually proceed to turn your meat over.
Nice.
And now to that, we're going to very simply give the marination a bit of a mix once more.
Right.
And we're going to proceed to baste over on the top of the meat. Remember one good thing about the acid and the lemon juice that we added in there?
Yeah.
This is basically just tenderizing as we continue. So we
Right,
just
right.
continue basting as we proceed.
Okay. Ah, that's nice.
And at this stage, we can actually throw over some of our garlic pieces.
Yeah.
And what happens as we continue to smoke the meat in the drum grill, the garlic is also going to continue to just cook right over the meat and of course allow for the garlic juices to penetrate the meat.
Yeah, man, that's magic.
Yeah, good stuff. Then of course, very important, while grilling, I like to of course add my salt as I continue.
Right.
Also allows it to give it a nice beautiful crust and color.
Right.
So we're just going to begin by sprinkling some salt right over the first side. And once that's done, we're pretty much going to cover this and allow it to continue cooking a little longer.
Nice.
All right, so that is pretty much going to cook for about another 15 to 20 more minutes. And right up until it's done and ready, we're pretty much going to move all this back into studio. And I'll of course proceed to show you the last serving suggestions. And we're also going to make that very, very simple flatbread to accompany this very, very simple dish. So please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Right.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're now pretty much done with the process of grilling. So I'm just going to proceed to open up the grill.
Lovely.
And as you can be able to see from the pictures there, nice beautiful color to the meat. It's of course shrunk a little bit, as you can be able to see,
Yeah,
Kevin.
Yeah, very true.
So now to finish this off, we're just going to simply finish off by salting over the top.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to turn it over for the viewers to be able to see the other side.
Wow.
As you can see, nice beautiful color coming through.
Yeah.
We're also going to season it with some salt once more.
Yeah.
And now that our lamb is done, once you're done seasoning, all you need to do now is proceed to move your meat onto a plate or a board that you'll be proceeding to carve your meat on. And I'm going to allow Kevin to do the honors of taking this back into studio.
Yeah.
So we'll pretty much catch you in a very, very short bit inside where I'm going to proceed to show you how to make a very, very simple flatbread. And I'm also going to give you some very, very simple serving suggestions to this very simple dish.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Smells nice.
Very, very nice, yeah? So welcome back, viewers. I can see Kevin's got some very, very good hands with that meat. He's pretty much managed to get it all the way from the grill to the studio without dropping it. So thank you very much for that, Kev. Now, of course, very, very simple. Always allow your meat to rest for about 10 to 20 minutes after grilling.
All right.
And this pretty much has had some good time to rest.
Yeah.
So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to slide it over to your side.
Okay.
And you're going to proceed to carve in the very, very simple way you know how.
Okay.
And while Kevin does so, I'll also proceed to finish off the last part of the dish. As I mentioned, remember we did have some flour and some other ingredients, including salt, sugar, and a bit of olive oil that we managed to roll out into this beautiful dough. But we are, of course, going to turn this into a very, very simple flatbread to aid us in, of course, plating this very simple dish. So as Kevin, you continue to carve,
All right.
I will begin to roll this out.
Okay.
Now, of course, for those of you who probably may be wondering how long the combined time took for the process of cooking and presenting this simple dish, pretty much make at least about 2 hours available for the process of marinating. Also create about another 2 to 3 hours, of course, for the process of grilling your meat, resting your meat. And of course, at the end of all this, it should actually give you quite enough time to proceed to plate this nice and early for dinner. But remember, especially for those of you who are grilling from home, you may of course want to really begin the process maybe a day before by marinating your meat. And of course, this will make it much easier for you the following day when all you need to do is light up the stove, place your meat on the grill, grill it till perfection, and then proceed to just serve this immediately after. Right, now, very, very simple technique of making flatbread. I'm going to proceed by just portioning out just a bit of my dough. And of course, while doing so, very important to make sure to dust your working surface. And also very importantly, begin by heating up the pan that you'll be cooking your flatbread on, just to make it, of course, much easier for you to finish off. Nice, Kev.
Nice, eh?
Now, as you can be able to see from that, that is a beautiful medium cooked steak.
Yes.
Easy as done, yeah?
It is nice, nice.
Right.
It looks really beautiful.
You can actually give it a taste for us, maybe grab a piece and tell us how we did from the grill.
Okay.
And while Kevin does so, I'll of course take you through the process of finishing off the flatbread. So of course, right after rolling it out, how is it?
It's lovely.
You're getting the beautiful aromas of the rosemary, the potency of the garlic.
Yes. Even like the lemon as well.
The lemon juice is also coming through quite nice.
Very beautiful.
So maybe Kevin, you can tell us, do you probably bring the same technique of preparing meal to your barbecue at home in the future?
Yes, yes, I would.
So you're definitely going to try this out on your own?
I'm going to try this out on my own and eat it on my own first. Before cooking for
Before allowing anybody into your kitchen.
Yes.
So as you've been able to also learn as well, very, very simple techniques of improvising with the ingredients available in the market. I think you can of course confirm to our guests and viewers at home that you can actually be able to find everything that we used from this recipe at the market.
Yes, yes. Everything that we have over here can get it anywhere in your local grocery, and it's really, really nice for marination. The marination that I learned over here, really nice. That I'm gonna try that at home.
Perfect.
As well, yeah.
Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to finish off this dish very, very simply. So, Kevin, these are just a very, very simple dough that I made as well.
Yeah.
So for this, we're just going to dump that onto the hot pan.
Yeah.
We're basically going to allow it to just color.
Yeah.
So you'll actually be able to tell once it begins to cook by seeing it actually form some pockets or air bubbles right at the center.
Right.
And once it begins to puff up, we're pretty much going to turn it over and proceed to the plating process.
Beautiful.
So we're going to just quickly grab a plate that we're going to be serving this dish on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be using this very, very simple plank of wood.
Yeah.
And we're of course going to allow that to continue cooking for anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And while that continues, I of course like to give it a nice beautiful appeal and color once it's actually tossed over.
Yeah.
So all we're going to do at this stage is allow for the first process to finish, then we're going to proceed to turn it over. But something else maybe you can be able to share with the viewers before we get to the closing part of the show. Maybe some good pointers that you can share out maybe to a viewer that's of course looking at you right now and maybe wondering what are the steps they need to take to be that artist that they're pretty much looking forward to being in the future.
Right. When you're an artist, you know, you find yourself first, find your strength, find where what kind of art, because art is diverse. It's really huge. You find yourself. Sometimes you fall into writing when you're not a good painter. Sometimes you fall into acting, or you fall into any other arts that you can possibly go into. So just find yourself first. Know how strong you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, and then from there you can just find yourself whatever medium that you want to proceed with your artwork. Probably might be spray painting, it might be canvas art, contemporary art, it might be muralism, depending on whatever mediums, even multimedia as well. And you just perceive onto it, and then the universe just falls onto your space, and you continue working with yourself towards your betterment. You know, so it's just you and dedication.
Perfect. Actually, those are some very nice words. Well, for those of you who are aspiring artists at home, I think you've managed to be able to get some good influence and good motivational enthusiasm that you can also bring to your own situation and maybe apply wherever necessary. But of course, as we did say on the show, we're not really insisting that you become a street artist. You can actually be any artist that you can be. For some of people like myself who decided to go artistic with food,
Yes, of course.
it is also a different kind of art, I believe, yeah?
Yes, it is.
Because we also incorporate beautiful elements of color, shape, and all that, yeah?
Yes, there's a lot to it.
Simple as that. So, right, just to finish off our flatbread, Kev, I'm just going to drizzle that with a little bit of olive oil. And we're basically going to move that straight onto our plate. So I'm just going to slide that over the surface, and I'm going to toss it just a little bit. Of course, moving it around the pan allows for the oil to spread out nice and evenly on each surface, and it also brings that beautiful gloss and color. And once that's done, all you need to do now is proceed to move that onto the plate that you'll be serving your dish on. And of course, the last and final ingredients that we were to finish off this dish with, very, very simply, we're going to begin by scooping up some of our yogurt onto the plate. So I'm just going to place a dollop of yogurt right over the center. Spread that nice and easy around the plate. Nice and easy, yeah? So this is basically a very, very simple technique you can also use maybe if you're looking at a different alternative to having a barbecue.
Right.
So you know the African way, exactly like a taco kind of a setup. All right, once that's done, we need to very simply sprinkle that with some smoked paprika. So this is basically just to give the bread a nice, beautiful flavor. And once that's done, of course, you can proceed to layer your pieces of meat right over the top like that.
And this you can actually be able to serve as is, even as an appetizer. You can also be able to portion this nice and easy from the grill, and you can actually have it like a pass around. So they can actually just grab a piece of bread, put a bit of meat, some yogurt, some paprika powder, and you can proceed to dine, yeah? But now, of course, very important to give it a nice, beautiful finish. I, of course, like to finish by adding a bit of some fresh coriander leaves. This is, of course, to emphasize the beautiful freshness of ingredients and, of course, to give it a bit of color. Yeah? So simple as that, coriander right over the top. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my very, very simple take on some nyama choma, of course made with some very, very simple flatbread, and of course topped with a bit of yogurt and some paprika powder. So we have, of course, come to the last and final part of the show, where I will, of course, bid you farewell and, of course, remind you that you should actually take your chance and take your time to actually check out Kevin's page. Remind them the handle on your Instagram.
So my Instagram handle is Bankslave, Facebook Bankslave. You can also give me an email on mrbankslave@gmail.com or go to my website, bankslaveart.com.
Perfect. Now, for those of you who are also keen on learning a bit of tips and tricks on painting, you can, of course, speak to Kevin, of course, after the show. And you can, of course, be able also to maybe find out some creative tips and tricks maybe that you can improvise on your own and become that artist that you're aspiring to be.
True.
But we have come to the last and final part, Kev, so we're just going to bid them farewell. And of course, until the next episode of Dinner Guide, do have a lovely evening. God bless you all.